Hey, welcome back. I was able to bring out my collection of smooth precision pens today, which is quite a bit of work because these boxes sometimes are not easy to get open and closed without breaking stuff. I'll maybe show you what that means in a little bit, but wanted to go through the different versions and make sure that there was clarity because I've been searching for them and it was very confusing me to understand all the different models. Now, I don't have them all. He did a lot of one-offs and unique stuff along the way, but there's sort of 5 distinct primary models that most things fall into, plus a pencil, which kind of follows under 2 of the models. And I thought it'd be cool to walk through those 5 distinct models. I believe he started making these in 2019 based out of Texas. He's since closed up the business, moved to California, and he's gonna be starting a knife company is my understanding. I do not know Kenyon. I've chatted with him a little bit. Seems like an awesome guy. And I haven't done the research I've done on some of these types of videos where I go back through the Instagram and go through all the different variants. Like I've done some pretty deep research videos. I may do that in the future, but at the very minimum, I want to have an intro level video that I could not personally find on the smooth precision pens and urban survival gear or USG pens. And let's start with the earliest one that I have, that at least that I believe is the earliest one, and that is what's known by many people as the V1. Now, the interesting thing about the V1 and the V2, quote unquote, is that they look probably the most like the ones that came out at the end. So it's kind of interesting. He kind of veered down one path and then came back in a way. So the distinguishing factor or the distinguishing characteristic of the V1 versus, the most recent variants are the bolts. And these bolts here have a couple different variations, and the pocket clips have a couple different variations, but these screws, I should say, on the pocket clip are the very easiest way to tell. And then the V1 versus the V2.2, which is probably the hardest to know the differences of, is the V1, from my understanding, again, does not have anything here on the pocket clip. Apparently he's done a ton of different variations in terms of where he put these logos. And sorry, I'm gonna have to hold it in my hand like this so that the camera focuses since there are so many pens in the background. But putting this logo there on the top kind of represents the V1. So I have 2 like that. That's this one and this brass one next to it are the V1s. Now let's take a look at a V2. And I'll show you that there's also a V2 Mini, which is pretty cool. So that might be another distinguishing characteristic. You can see the logos here. And I believe the threading is different. I think one was hex and one was Torx or something like that, but I can't remember off the top of my head which is which. And then you'll see the cap doesn't have anything on the top. And so that's quote unquote the V2. So let's put this back and then we'll take a look at the V2 Mini here. Much lighter actually. So in these older ones, there is more variation in weight than in the newer ones, which is interesting. Let me show you what I mean. So, oh, you know what? It's probably Ti versus, I was holding the brass, but again, 0.72, 0.715 on the Mini and 1.03. So see, that's a pretty significant difference. We're talking about like a 30% weight difference, right? Oh, one other thing to note here. Bolt did not completely cover up. On the newer ones, the bolt completely covers up the hole. Now take a look at this newer comparison. So there's a brand new one, 0.86 ounces versus 0.89 ounces. They're almost the same weight on the newer variations of the large versus the mini, or the full, maybe you call it, versus the mini. So kind of interesting sort of factor of these older V1, V2 was there's actually a bit more disparity in weight, and they're actually longer. So the V1s versus the full size that came later are about a 1/4 inch difference. You can see here. It's about a 1/4 inch in difference there. So these were the longest pens that he made, is my understanding, at least. All right, let's keep moving. So V1, V2, hopefully you got a little feel for that. By the way, before I move on too fast, they came in these kind of unique or different, I guess, than current holders or cases. So these cases were quite a bit different than what he ended up boxing up his pens in later, which were more of these kind of boxes like this with a little holder on the inside. there's some other stuff that came along the way. There is a version here of the V2 that I have, the mini, that came in this box as well. So there were some changes, and that was kind of the evolution to what you eventually saw as the Urban Survival gearbox, and then eventually the Smooth Precision box. So there's like 4 primary variants of boxes that I've come across so far. 4, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variants of boxes that I've come across so far. Because these two are similar, but have the different logo because he switched the brand. So that's 1 and 2, and then you have 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Now, this is where things got a little interesting, and I don't know exactly if these overlapped or if it was like, so if it was like a different model or what the story was exactly, but the variant went from this sort of V1, V2 here to the USG TiScribe Go series. And this is probably one of the better examples. I guess any of these are fine, but these were available again in titanium, copper, and brass, like the one I'm holding. There's some variation in whether the pens had a brass bolt or not, which is interesting, or a copper bolt. All of them pretty much, I think there was maybe I think all of them had tie clips though, if I recall correctly. I don't think I've seen anything except for a titanium clip, if I recall correctly. So interesting there, just to note. Now he started doing more milling in variations of the milling. He started doing some Cerakotes. So I have one here that's kind of funky, this Umbrella Corp Resident Evil style pen with this pretty customized paint on it. He did like American flags and other things. Here's a Cerakote orange that I found brand new in box. And obviously a very distinguishing characteristic on these are the caps. You can see these have like, these V1, V2 have like a little bit of a tall cap. The 2.2 in contrast has like almost no cap. So it's like kind of just like a top. That's what that threads in on the inside. And then these have no cap, and I'll find one that's kind of unique here because it's sort of a one-off, has no rings on it. I don't know if that's like a custom body or what, but here's a full titanium stonewash in the TiScribe Go. Again, distinguishing characteristic being there's no cap on these, so the bolt goes the whole way, which is super interesting. I think it's the same bolt too, and pocket clip as the 2.2, which is really weird, but yeah, if you actually look at it, you can tell, I think, maybe I'm off on this, but yeah, you can see sort of where no, it can't be the same bolt, right? Like, that wouldn't fit in there, so I think I'm off on that. But anyways, there's some variation there and some funkiness to consider. So he started doing more milling patterns here. There aren't a ton that I've seen, but you saw some like this. I don't know if he did like, you know, dragons and stuff on TiScribe Go. I've never found one, but I'm sure that they've been floating around, and you'll probably let me know in the comments. So that's kind of like the third model that came along. Maybe I'll just weigh one in really quickly in the full tie to compare. 0.97, so this was a little lighter than the V1 full size. That's actually a mini there though. So maybe we'll weigh this full size variant. 0.97 also, so kind of interesting. Again, very little weight variation from full size to small, kind of like the 2.2s. And then let's get into a few other variants here. He also got into like a Zerk variant, which is one of my favorite pens in my collection, is this Zerk. It's just insanely smooth. So as he goes into 2.2, he started doing zirconium finishes, which are really elegant. This one is a full custom like copper that's smooth the whole way, and then you can see I have a bunch of body variants with like the barber pole, gosh, what was this called? Blockchain, dragon, ring, smooth, dragon with anno blue. So there are a ton of options here. You have up here, what was this guy called? The jigsaw. I always want to say puzzle. It's the jigsaw. So I have some of these custom polished by Metamorphosis, who does fantastic work, absolutely one of the best. He did a lot of the custom work for Kenyon and some of his standard finishes as well. So you'll see some here. the Valhalla milling, and there are quite a few others, some which I don't have. There's like a hexagon one, I can't remember what that one was called. There's like a grenade that he did on the 2.2. So as he got into the 2.2s, things went kind of off the hook, and he did all sorts of really cool stuff. Now there are also two pencils here. These two are USG kind of like one-offs of the TiScribe. They're kind of thicker. And then this is, excuse me, this zirconium one here is actually the diameter more of the standard, or not standard, but the 2.2 diameter. So that's kind of interesting. The pencils do have some variation as well. This one is again like a mini 2.2 custom in copper. So yeah, these are full size. These are minis of what we'll call like the standard of the 5 rings. Some people just call this the smooth, but I don't, because for me the smooth is, you know, basically like that, or, you know, like this. Like that's fully smooth. There's no rings or anything, fully smooth. Okay, so 2.2s, tons of variation, really cool, very similar weight on the full size. They're 5 1/4 versus 4.75 inches, but basically it's the fill. The fill on these guys is a little heavier than these, so it kind of counteracts the body being a little heavier than that, but it's, you know, interesting, right? That brings us to his final model, the last one he made before he shuttered the business, which is the Cam Click. I think it's called Cam Click, right? Or the click pen, whatever. This one's a standard stonewash. He also did this in Zerk and other finishes, which, you know, a lot of people, you don't see many of these on the market. The bolt has like a little, looks like a Torx there. You've got a little bit of a unique bolt on the inside. I should say the screw or whatever. Maybe you call it the bolt, I don't know. And then the pocket clip was pretty much similar to the regular 2.2. Kind of a quirky one, a little rattly when it's open. Yeah, just kind of more rattly and quirky, kind of one-off version that he did. You can click it this way, or you can just do it with the bolt. But that's the only one that I've found so far. And that's sort of the 5th variation, right? So if we go through one more time, you have V1, V2, TiScribe Go, 2.2, and Cam Click. So this is like the 5 core models that I've identified. If you know of others, please do let me know. Would love to learn more about these. As you can see, I'm kind of obsessed with them. And yeah, it's been a fun journey trying to go find these now that he's out of business, and appreciate all of you that helped contribute some of these to my collection. So that's pretty good for now. I think that's a good start, and I'll probably dig in a little more over time and see what more I can learn and share with you all as I do, if I do. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did and you want to see more of this content, please like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.